Y'all didn't know I could sing that good, did you? I did that just for y'all. Well, good morning. Aren't you glad to be here? I know I am. So, the last time that I stood on the stage, I preached a sermon that came from my heart. Well, guess what? I'm going to do it again today. But first off, I'm going to start out with something that I heard the other day that really made me laugh. So a man was walking on a California beach, and as he was walking, he come across a glass bottle. He was like, I've seen these on TV. He said, you rub these and a genie comes out. So he picks it up, and he rubs it. Out pops the genie. She said, thank you for finally releasing me. She said, I will grant any wish that you want. So he sat there for a minute. He's like, man, that's tough. He said, I know what. He said, I have always wanted to go to Hawaii, but I'm too scared to fly, and I get seasick. He said, so I want you to build me a bridge from the coast of California to Hawaii. Jeannie looked at him. She said, you're crazy. She said, that cannot be done. That is physically impossible. She said, just think of the mathematics that would happen. You'd have to build a bridge to the bottom of the Pacific Ocean. But she said, you know what, just pick something else. He said, okay, I got one for you. He said, I want to understand women. He said, I want to understand why they cry when they're happy. They cry when they're sad. They cry when they're mad. And they yell at me when they're happy. He's like, I don't want to fully understand what goes through a woman's mind on a daily basis. The genie looked at him. She said, you want that highway to be 2 lanes forward? That's about right. But you know what? Without him, we'd be lost. I know I would. So, today, what I want to talk about is, what is your faith worth? The last time I was up here, the title of my sermon was Faith on Fire. And I'm a very strong believer and a very strong person when it comes to faith. Because if you don't have faith, you really don't have anything. There's nothing that you can put your hope in if you don't have faith. But as I was reading through Peter, and he is, telling us not to be scared, the only thing I could think of was, how many people in this world do we have that say there is no God? Well, let me give you an example of one of those people. Antony Flew, Antony, was considered the most famous world atheist ever of the 21st century. He was born in 1923 and died in 2010. Well, before he died, he wrote a book that was called There Is a God. And people said, you have spent your whole entire life proving to people that there is no God, and now you wrote a book that says there is one. He said, I don't get it. He said, well, I'll put it to you like this. He said, it was easier for me to prove there was a God than prove that there wasn't. He said, because if you think about it, he said there was more evidence to base that God existed than to base He never did. My question to that is, if God's not real, why do we have death? The whole purpose of death is the punishment of sin. But you know something? We don't have to fear that anymore. Because once you are saved, death, when you breathe your last breath here, you breathe your first breath in heaven. And that's something to be excited about. So, what is your faith really worth? Well, over 2,000 years ago, Jesus believed it was worth His life. And he believed that your soul was precious enough to come save. But is your faith worth getting persecuted, spit on, beaten, or even killed? And that's something that all of us, including myself, battle on a daily basis. What is your faith really worth? Well, he tells us in 1 Peter 2:11. He says, "Dear friends, I urge you, as foreigners and exiles, to abstain from sinful desires which wage war against your own soul." He tells us, stop living over here with the world, because a friend of the world is an enemy of God's. Because you can't possibly live for this flesh and make these people happy and also please God. Because you can't please sin and God. It's not possible. So how far are you willing to go? How much is your faith worth? You know, the Bible tells us how much our faith is worth. He says, though you have not seen him, you love him, and even though you do not see him now, you believe in him, and are filled with an inexpressible and glorious joy. For you are receiving the end result of your faith, the salvation of your souls. So what is your faith worth? It's worth more than gold that withstands and perseveres through the fire. 1 Peter 1:7. He says that in 1 Peter 1:7. He says, so that the tested genesis of your faith, more precious than gold that perishes, though it is tested by fire, may be found to result in the praise and glory and honor at the revelation of Jesus Christ. He says your faith is worth more than gold. Can you put a price on it? Absolutely not. Because that price was the precious blood of Jesus Christ when it bled out. That's what paid it. And that is what your faith is worth. So, we talk about that. But how do you respond when somebody point blank tells you what you believe in is a fairy tale? That's a hard question. And that makes me so mad, like beyond furious. Because I have seen Jesus firsthand heal people. And I have seen him firsthand bring a man back that had a heart attack that was not supposed to live. You tell me that there's not a God, I'll prove you wrong. And I'll take my last breath doing everything I can to prove that. But you know something? Even if I don't prove it to you, it's your choice. But is that choice worth a pit of hell for eternity? And that's what my biggest argument is. I love atheists. I love them. I ain't gonna lie to you. I love talking to them. I love sitting down with them. I love bouncing ideas off of them. You know why? You can't be an atheist if you don't believe he exists. I'm like, you don't even believe he exists, so how are you an atheist? You ever thought about that? It makes absolutely no sense. So really what I bounce off of them is, you believe he exists, you just don't want to believe what he can do. Because you know something? We used to pray in school. We used to say the Pledge of Allegiance, one nation under God. No more. People scared to death of that name. But yet they don't want to believe in it, so how can you be scared of it? It makes absolutely no sense to me. What it amounts to is they believe how powerful that name is. And they believe that he can shut anything down that he wants to shut down. And they have no control over it. One of my favorite pastors that I watch on a daily basis said this: history proves that a nation, if they will not bow before God, will bow before something. Germany would not bow to God, but they bowed to Hitler. Sodom and Gomorrah wouldn't bow to God, but they bowed before the gods of this world and were destroyed by the hand of the true God. History has proved that if you bow, you will burn. If you bow before the gods of this world, you will burn. My favorite story of all time is Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They give Tom, Dick, and Harry a real good name. Everybody remember that story? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego, 3 righteous Jews. Just perfect examples of a faith that's tested by fire, literally. So they're sitting there, and here's this 90-foot tall statue, King Nebuchadnezzar. And he said, the trumpet sounded and everybody bowed. And Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego looked at each other and they were like, I'm not bowing. And they said, well, we're not either. So here they are. Everybody's bowed down. And here's these 3 children standing ramrod straight, right up on the front row. And he's like, didn't you guys get the memo? They said, yeah, we got the memo. We just don't bow before the gods of this world. Well, you talking about that. Now the king was furious. He said, well, I'll tell you what I'll do. He said, I'll just get rid of people that won't bow before me and my idol. They said, King, do what you got to do. We still ain't going to bow. They bound them hand and foot. Couldn't move. Heated the fiery furnace 7 times hotter. And tossed them in. Said, well, hope your God's real. Well, it wasn't so real for those guards that threw them in. They were burned instantly. But then what happened? The next thing that happened came a supernatural power from God that King Nebuchadnezzar had never seen. He said, hey, how many people we throw in there? He said, King, we threw 3 in there. He said, ain't 4 walking around. He said, but what did he say? He said, the 4th is likened to the Son of God. Because they would not bow before the godless demands of this world. And they were not scared to stand up for Jesus Christ. And what did he do? He said, I told you. All you got to do is listen. I told you I would take care of it. And because you did what I told you and asked you to do, I'm standing right beside you. And I've been right here the whole time. But now, they can see me. And King Nebuchadnezzar, I would have loved to have seen his face. Boy, don't you know, he was like, uh-oh, I think I done messed up. When them 3 righteous kids come walking out of that fire, untouched, unburned, and they just stand there, I told you, you can listen to me. I had a big head too. That fire can't hurt me. Think about Daniel. Daniel prayed day and night. He was so trusted by the king that he trusted so much in God. Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego's faith to them was worth it. Daniel was the same way. He said, I don't care if you tell me I can't pray. He said, I'm going to keep on praying. There's a lady in this church right now that I absolutely love to death. I'm not going to call her name, but I'm telling y'all, she's got a direct line to heaven. I mean, it's a phone. I believe she's got a phone sitting in her house, and she picks up and says, hey, this guy needs a miracle. Send it. And I love talking to her. But Daniel was set up. You know, we can learn a lot. We don't have to be in the New Testament, because I'm telling you, a lot of life lessons are learned in the Old. And that's something that I struggle with a lot. My grandparents and then my older generation, I didn't want to listen to them. I was like, I don't like that. Boy. Now I'm like, can you give me that advice again? I sure do like it now. But look at Daniel. Daniel was threw into a lion's den and said, if your God is so great, I sure hope he can shut the mouths of these lions. I saw a picture one time, Daniel sitting on a rock in the bottom of the lion's den. And right behind him stood an angel with his hands on the lions. King couldn't sleep all night. Didn't want anything he usually wanted. Got up the next morning and ran to see Daniel. Because the king knew, he said, this God is real. He said, Daniel, he called out to him, please, just tell me something. And Daniel said, the Lord sent his angels to shut the mouths of the lions. A test. All because Daniel believed and had faith that God would do exactly what he told him to do. But you know something? How often do we pray? But do we really believe? Do we really believe that what we're praying for is going to happen? It's hard. It's hard for me. C.S. Lewis said this, a man can no more diminish God's glory by refusing to worship him than a lunatic can put out the sun by scribbling the word darkness on the walls of his cell. You can't put out the sun if you say go dark. And an atheist can no more find God for the same reason a thief cannot find a policeman. A robber's not looking for the police. An atheist is looking for God. But he says, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, at this time, we can move mountains. God has proved over a history that if you won't bow to me, what will you? And that scares me because I look around and I see my youth and I talk to them every single day. But you know something? There is absolutely nothing that puts a smile on my face bigger than looking down at this road right here. Because I know that's the generation coming behind me. And I know that at least 90% of them have a backbone. The other 10% we're still working on. It's getting there. But I know that they'll stand for God when nobody else will. And how happy that makes me. But I asked them the other night, I said, guys, how come we're so scared to share the gospel? And one of them looked at me and hit the nail right on the head. He said, because we're scared of what people will say about us. I said, oh, that hurts. Just nailed it. Well, you know something? In 1 Peter 3, 13 through 16, you want to jot this down because this will be the answer to most all of your questions when you ask, how can somebody hurt me? Well, I'm about to tell you. So in 1 Peter 3, 13 through 16, he says, who is going to harm you if you are eager to do good? But even if you should suffer for what is right, you are blessed. Do not fear their threats. Do not be frightened. But in your hearts revere Christ as Lord. Always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope you have. But do this with the gentleness and respect, keeping a clear conscience, so that those who speak maliciously against your good behavior in Christ, may be ashamed of their slander. That right there is my favorite book verse in the Bible. Because I always get asked, Josh, if I go up here and, the Bikers for Christ, they do, what they do is awesome. You know, we ride with bikers against child abuse. But, you know, they walk right in with the bikers to share the good news. You know? And they're like, people are like, man, I don't know if I do that. That's a little dangerous. You're right. But he says right there, who is going to harm you if you are eager to do good? And especially if you're doing God's work. So if you, I'm going to wear this camera down. So if you are doing what God has called you to do, then why are we so scared about what people can say about us? Why are we so scared to hear them slander our name? You throw my name out there all day long. But he says right there, if my conscience is clear, then they will be ashamed of the slander on their tongues. My whole point in saying that is, we read these verses and we hear what they say, but when do we put them into practice? Because if we put them into practice, guys, we have Christians all over this country. And they would be so outspoken that people really would hate us. I'd be like, would you just shut up? I'm dying of hearing it. I don't want them to. That's what I want. Every single Wednesday and Sunday, I'm like, bring all your friends. Bring them all. And they're like, okay. Then I might get 2 or 3. But the more that they bring, and the more that they take their Bibles to school, and the more that they get the word out there, he says right here, he says, always be prepared to give an answer to everyone who asks you to give the reason for the hope that you have, so that nobody may catch you off guard. You know, that is powerful. But you know, we always ask, God, I sure am going through a hard time. And I sure don't feel you around me. I hear that a lot. It made me think of something. You ever heard a teacher talk during a test? He doesn't always talk to you when you're going through the test. That doesn't mean he left you. He's just standing there saying, are you going to turn to this world, or are you going to turn to me? Which one are you going to put your faith in now? Because stuff's starting to snowball downhill. He said, I've got the brakes. Do you want me to touch them? Because I can. But are you willing to put your whole entire faith in me? Are you willing to do that? When we get sick, and we're in the hospital, and stuff is just like, Lord, I'm dying. Is that the only thing we say? I'm just dying. That's it. I'm dying. No. I said, Lord, just get me through this. I can't tell you how many nights I've heard drunks say, Lord, just get me through this. I'll never drink another drop of alcohol in my life. And I'm sitting there thinking, yes, you will. You said that last night. You know, but when we're sick, when we're going through trials, we all turn to something. But what do we turn to? And do we turn to it for the right reasons? You know, that's mine. You know, the teacher is sometimes, more than likely, always quiet during the test. So remember that. The next time you feel like your faith is being tested, and you pray and you pray and you pray, doesn't mean God's not listening. That just means he's waiting to see how you're going to handle it. And how you are going to turn left or right. Because every action has a consequence. So be careful of which one you turn down. Because it's like the old saying, the grass ain't always greener on the other side. It might look that way for a little bit. But you know, the devil will will give you a life full of joy. So you think. So that you cannot find the one true meaning to happiness. I have heard people that I have sold stuff to, done oil changes for, millionaires, say, I've got everything in the world. And I said, no, you don't. Because you look as miserable as anybody I've ever seen. Because sometimes the devil will give us everything that our flesh lusts for to make us think that we're happy, when really the only thing it's doing is condemning us to a life away from God. Because the one true happiness is seated next to God the Father right now. Sometimes we just have to endure faith trials and feel like we've been beaten so that He can ultimately show His power. It shows the glory that reigns through Him. I can't sit here and tell you that it's been smooth sailing for me, because it's not. I was way away from God for a long time and didn't want no part of Him. And He showed me how much I really needed Him, because He put me on this stage. Because no matter how hard I ran, He was slowly just widening on that string. He's like, I'll get you here eventually. He said, just how long are you going to fight me? How long are you going to keep running from me? Or just turn around? Because no matter how far we run that way, it's only one step back to God. Because He never loses. He'll run right there with you, waiting. Are you ready now? And when you turn around, right there He's going to be. He'll never leave you nor forsake you. I would rather stand with God and be judged by the world than stand with the world and be judged by God. Because I sure don't want to hear that statement, depart from me, I never knew you. Because you know something, for a long time I struggled. And it was an internal struggle, and I can talk about it now. Because God wasn't cool. He wasn't what was hip, or whatever they say now. I don't know. He wasn't what was in style. Look back at history, He ain't never been in style. That's why they killed Him. And that's why He said, let me show you something. You kill me and I'll get back up. He said, because you have no power over me but what the Father gives you. You can kill me, I'm going to get right back out of that tomb, and I'm going to keep on rocking. Because when He died and He hung His head and said, it is finished, the greatest meeting in the history of time happened. Because He met the devil face to face. And He said, give me those keys. He said, they don't belong to you no more. He said, they're mine. Greatest meeting that ever happened. Because the devil used to run this world, and Jesus said, you don't know more. Because that's how much your faith is worth. That sends chills down my spine. Just thinking about that. Jeremiah 1:16 says, I will pronounce my judgments on them concerning all wickedness, whereby they have forsaken me, and have offered sacrifices to other gods, and worshipped the works of their own hands. You know, we oftentimes want to say, look what I did. I brought it to church. I got in there. Me. It's not our credit to get. God's. God gets it here because He uses us to do it. So we really don't do nothing but drive the car. And sometimes He drives it. My grandma told me a story one time. It was snowing or icing or something. She was going across the bridge. And something happened and she lost control and she just let go of the wheel. I was like, well, that was smart. Good job. So she says she looked down at the steering wheel, she started to slide sideways, and all of a sudden that steering wheel just started turning. And all of a sudden the car straightened back out. Everything was okay. So sometimes we're not even driving the car. We just sit there saying, God, what you want us to do next? But that leads me to something else, is we can't just sit around and wait on that time. Sometimes we got to ask God, where do you want me to go, and already be headed that way. We need to already be walking that way to find those souls. I'd love nothing more than to see this church from front to back filled with nothing but prostitutes and sinners. Full of homosexuals and people that could care less about knowing God, because you know what? That's who we need to be reaching. I don't turn sinners away. I don't turn prostitutes away. I don't turn homosexuals away. Somebody's got to reach them. And if we turn them away, who's going to get them? They just going to say, and no wonder I hate Christianity. They ain't nothing but a bunch of stuck-up people. Because that's what we've made them feel like for all these years. Instead of when they walk through that door, wrapping your arms around them and saying, man, it's so good to see you. Come on in, have a seat. You sit with me. And letting them hear the true, ultimate power of the gospel of Jesus Christ. But we've turned them away for so long. There was a story that I read about. Everybody remembers the Columbine shooting. A young girl named Cassie sitting in a library, and this is her friend telling the story. She said Cassie was sitting there studying. And the library, they said, was one of the first parts of the school that they walked. When they walked in, Cassie was sitting there reading a book. And she said the next thing that Cassie felt was a gun to her head. And the shooter looked at her and said, "Do you believe in God?" I'm telling you one thing. I really hope if somebody had a gun to my head and asked me that question that I could say, "You bet you're right, I do." She said, "Yes, I believe in God." And the next thing, she met him. He pulled the trigger. I fully believe at that moment that God himself was smiling. And he said, that is what faith is all about. Because she knew, no matter what answer I give, I'm probably going to die. She's like, but you know what? Hold on. Jesus died for me. And he saved me. And she stood up for him. Because it's just like the Bible says, who is going to harm you if you're eager to do good? You know, when we think of harm, we think of this flesh. But guys, think about it. If we get killed, it's a win-win. If we're here and we still living and we can keep on preaching, if we die, we just go see him. And get to see face to face what we've preached about for so long. So how is it a lose situation? Because we're scared of all the souls we haven't got yet. And we're scared of the earthly things that we will leave behind. When really, they have no value at all. Because if the family's saved, you'll see them again. If your friends are saved, you'll see them again. But if you're not saved, you won't see them again. Is it worth that to you? Is it worth second guessing yourself? It's like I said, the history has proven that the world will bow to something. He says in Mark 11:24, he said, therefore I tell you, whatever you ask for in prayer, believe that you have received it and it will be yours. I pray every day that God gives me the words that I can use for my youth. Because you have to be very careful when you talk to youth. I don't know if most of y'all have kids, but me dealing with them, because they'll use your words against you. So you have to be very careful because they'll twist your words. And I'm telling you one thing. I have volunteered, me and my wife volunteered with the youth at Youth Spring. We loved it there. But I'm telling you one thing, I have never been to a church and felt the open arms that these youth have given me and that this church has given me. Guys, we are here 100% solely to do what God has called us to do, and that is to serve. To serve Him and to serve others. We're not here to serve ourselves. Because Jesus Christ never served Himself. If He'd have never healed a blind eye, if He'd have never made the lame walk, He'd have still been God. But you know, He did that so people would have what they've needed for thousands of generations. And that's proof. Instead of just believing. Instead of just saying, you know what? God, you're right. I surrender. Just like that song, I surrender all. Until you surrender it all, you will never be free. Before I preached this sermon, I had a text that was sent to me from a girl that I grew up with, and she said, I want you to bring the wall down this morning. And you know something? I don't want people to see me when I preach. I want them to see God. I want them to see Jesus speaking through me. Because I don't have any words but the words that He gives me. I can write words on a paper all day long. But until He puts His power behind it, they're just words. But once He steps in, you better watch out. Because our society has become a pagan society. A pagan society is anything away from God. He says, live such good lives among the pagans, that though they accuse you of doing wrong, they may see your good deeds and glorify God on the day that He visits. Submit yourselves for the Lord's sake to every human authority, whether to the emperor or the supreme authority, or to the governors or who are sent by Him to punish those who do wrong and to commend those who do right. If you do right by God, you're fine. But it's like I said before, if you bow, you will burn. So let me ask you this. There's two kinds of people when we started this sermon, when I was talking about Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. Two kinds of people in this audience and two kinds of people in this world. Those who are bowing to the godless demands of this world, or those who are standing ramrod straight right on the front row for the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Which one are you? Or do you even know? If you have a question or a shadow of a doubt in your mind about where your eternity lies, I urge you not to wait any longer. Because it's just like the youth and they're saying, is your temptation worth your salvation? That's their slogan. They tell everybody. Is it? Do you know where you're going if you took your last breath today? Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego did. So did Daniel. He said, said, either way, it's a win-win for me. So while I'm here, I'm going to serve the Lord. Would you bow your heads?